Kelowna, one of the most beautiful places in the world to live, surrounded by provincial parks, pine forests, vineyards, orchards, and mountains. Wouldn't it be great if there was a podcast about our love of Kelowna? Oh no, it's real. This is I Love Kelowna, an interview-style podcast about the fabulous and fascinating people that make up our great city and the Okanagan. Intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, creatives, and anyone who has an interesting story to tell about how they're contributing to our wonderful home. This is I Love Kelowna, and here's your host, Luke J. Minkus.
Michael, thank you so much for coming all the way up here on Sunday. You're from Penticton. We've had a few guests now from Summerland, Penticton. I think you're the first from Penticton. But we had a few from Vernon and a couple from Peachland. So that's great.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
And you came to the Okanagan in 2012. Tell us the story of how you ended up here.
Yes, I came here with my wife Martina in 2012. Basically, the whole story was that we are from Slovakia, and we felt a little bit that we would like to have some adventure in our life, not just living in one country. We like to travel, and because we are from the Slovakian wine industry, we wanted to go somewhere else and discover different wine regions in the world. Originally, we wanted to go to Austria because we have a lot of friends in Austria, or to Germany, to wine regions over there. But at the same time, we saw a documentary in TV about interesting places in the world where they make wine. And they were presenting Incamip Cellars in Osoyoos as an originally owned winery. And that's how we actually discovered Okanagan. So we did a little more search on internet, and we actually were completely amazed by how beautiful it is here.
Yeah.
So that's how we decided, okay, well, let's try to go to Canada. And Canada was actually the first country that accepted our application to come here.
Okay.
So it was beginning of April 2012. We packed our 4 suitcases and we came here.
Wonderful. Did you consider other parts of the world at the same time?
Just Austria, Germany. And we thought about Italy probably a little bit, but...
But Canada accepted your application first.
Yes.
Now, is Slovakia part of the European Union?
Yes, it is.
So couldn't you automatically move to Italy or Germany?
Pretty much, yes, but we were also, at the same time, if we didn't apply for like immigration papers, then we were looking for a job. And basically, because Canada accepted our papers first,
nice.
So we were like, okay, let's try Canada. It's such a unique country and one of the most famous countries in the world.
Right.
One of the biggest countries in the world. So, of course, it was very tempting to come here.
Yeah. Is the climate similar in Slovakia?
Okanagan and Slovakia is very similar climate.
Yeah.
Very similar.
And tell us about your wine background in Slovakia. You mentioned you were in the wine industry. Were you making wine?
Yes, I was also making wine. We had a very small garage winery, like many people in wine regions in Slovakia. And then I also worked for the biggest winery in Slovakia as quality controller and analyst. This winery was the first winery outside of Canada producing sparkling wine according to champagne method. And also, so it's the biggest sparkling wine producer, and brandy producer in Slovakia.
How old were you when you first got into winemaking?
Well, it's a little bit in our family because our ancestors, they have like a part of our family tree lives in France, so they have a winery over there in the Loire Valley. But my father, my grandfather, they were never into wine. But I always felt that I wanted to keep it in our family, keep this tradition in my family. So that's how I decided, basically right after high school, to start doing it.
Right. And here you're doing vineyard management.
Yes. Well, the first thing when we came here, of course, like I just found just a basic job in vineyards because nobody knew me. I also had to start discovering what varieties are growing here, how the climate is and everything. So of course the first thing, because I believe that wine starts in a vineyard, was to discover different parts of Okanagan, soil, climate, microregions of Okanagan. So because we had some capital that we brought here from Slovakia, we started a vineyard management company. Because we saw that there are a lot of small growers or landowners. They didn't really wanted to get into growing grapes, but they just wanted to utilize the soil and the land. So we started managing small vineyards in Okanagan and Similkameen. And simultaneously, we also found some people that were interested in our knowledge of wine. So we started consulting winemaking for some clients. And that's basically how we started.
So if I own a piece of land and it's got grapes growing, or maybe not, but it's suitable, and then you can come in and help me come up with a plan to
Absolutely.
hire workers and to plant and to harvest and everything.
Absolutely.
Start to finish.
We can actually provide a whole process of assessing the land, what varietals are suitable. Of course, there are companies that come and build the vineyard, and then we take care of the vineyard until it produces fruit, and the fruit is then either the producer, the landowner wants to make some wine or sell it to wineries. Then that's our job is done by that.
Right. How many vineyards do you have under management?
Right now, we actually really slowed down because last 4 years we were focusing on starting Lunaessence Winery in Summerland. Actually, we first there are foreign investors that owned the land in Summerland, and they asked us to start a winery for them. So we gave up a lot of clients that we had, and we were focusing really on this winery only. Yeah, and that brought us also to start our own wine label, Winemaker's Cut. So right now we don't have many clients, but we are focusing more on the wine production and wine marketing side.
Nice. And you mentioned micro regions.
Yes.
Are there big differences between, say, Summerland and Soyuz?
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I love wine. My partner, Kara, is really into wine. She just passed her WSET 2. She's going towards 3 and 4. Yeah. So she knows a lot more than I do. And for me, it's still a new thing. You know, I've always been a beer drinker, whiskey drinker. So tell us some of the differences between like a Soyuz and Summerland and so on.
It was like a big school for me also when I came here, because I was introduced to Okanagan by my friends and co-workers and winemakers that Okanagan is a cool climate region. Which when I was every year I was working in vineyards and producing wine, I realized there are parts of Okanagan that are not cool climate at all. Like maybe winter is cold, but the summer temperatures and the length of the growing season is not cool climate at all. Like Osoyoos and Oliver, maybe up to Okanagan Falls, those are really parts that can grow really, really big reds. One of the biggest in the world, I would say. Then when you go more towards like Okanagan Falls to Penticton, Summerland, and Kelowna, those are regions where, like for example, Rieslings or Gewürztraminer grows from in these sites. They are definitely comparable with one of the best Rieslings in the world. And of course, then there are differences like southern slope, northern slope, eastern slope. Those are also very, very big differences. Like when we discovered Deadman Lake Vineyard, which is located between Oliver and Osoyoos. That's actually, Deadman Lake Vineyard is home of Winemaker's Cut wines. We discovered that the soil in this piece of land is completely different to soil, sandy and gravelly soil of Okanagan, of the typical Okanagan soil. Every year, every vintage, every new vineyard that I'm working with, I'm discovering the uniqueness of Okanagan Valley.
Interesting. How do you determine the uniqueness? Is it looking at an almanac for weather patterns? Are you taking soil samples? Or is it just tasting the grapes and the wine that helps you to determine the difference?
It starts definitely with soil samples. And then ideally, if there is a weather station in each vineyard, the number of days with waterfall, rain, number of sunshine days, and also sloping, for example, is really important because summer in Okanagan and summer and spring in Okanagan, there are vineyards that you cannot grow grapes without irrigation. That's also one really important part because with irrigation here you can really regulate how you grow your grapes and how the grapes are the end product of like during harvest.
Right. So the amount of water and sunshine actually affects the taste of the wine.
Absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about the differences between Okanagan and Slovakia. Is it the industry pretty similar, or are there big differences?
I think there are differences, and the biggest difference is maybe the generation experience that is in Slovakia. Slovakia is a pretty small country. It has only about 5 million people, but is as big as, I don't know, from Osoyoos to Kamloops.
Okay.
That's it. British Columbia has 5 million people as well, and it's huge, like maybe half of Europe.
Right.
So it's but Slovakia it's a cooler climate, definitely, much more wet, more rainy days. So there are not that many like exceptional vintages in Slovakia, but still there are every year Slovakia can produce really really decent and elegant wines that is even winning awards on international field. But Okanagan with its climate, I think Okanagan has a climate that can really compete with the best wines in the world.
Right.
Maybe not size-wise, because like everybody generally just know Italian, Australian, French wines because they have the size, they have the vineyards. Okanagan will never be able to compete with these countries because Okanagan doesn't have the size. But Okanagan produces small amounts of high-quality wines, and when tourists are coming here and they see the views, they see the landscape, that's just really some people are really just speechless.
Yeah. It's truly amazing. I've been here since 2011, and I vacationed here a few times before that, and it's really one of the most beautiful places on the planet. But how do we get? How do like Americans and Europeans become aware of Okanagan wines? Is there marketing that takes place, or is it kind of word of mouth?
I think it's both marketing and both word of mouth. Marketing these days is really important. Without marketing, you don't know about anything what's going on.
Right.
And I know that BC Wine Institute is doing a really good job on marketing Okanagan on especially social media, and they're doing simply really really good job in this. But quality wine is second, of course, because if Okanagan wouldn't be producing high quality wines, then it would be simply tough. But I think that's not the problem anymore. Because people know that, and even on social medias or any medias, people know that Okanagan is really like one of the top producing regions in the world.
Right.
Many times I read different like charts, especially on American news, about what wine region in the world to visit, and Okanagan was placing top places, which is also really important.
Yeah.
And once people visit Okanagan, they start talking. Like you said, it's word of mouth. So, like we went to Napa Valley 2 years ago, first time in our life, and we were a little bit disappointed because we came from Okanagan, which is absolutely stunning. Napa Valley is also beautiful, but it doesn't have that many beautiful landscape like Okanagan.
Wow.
Like here,
I didn't know that.
Here you have places where you can really just stop at the side of the road and just keep looking. Looking for minutes, for hours maybe.
Yeah.
Napa Valley is more about the wine, you really are looking for those wineries. Here you have both.
And Napa Valley is much larger, isn't it? Like there's more vineyards, more production,
I think
greater quantities.
I think it's a little bit definitely larger, yeah.
Yeah. And you have a philosophy of being in harmony with nature.
Absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about that. What is your philosophy?
Well, our philosophy is and also our lifestyle is that we would like to know what we are eating, know what we are drinking, and that it's not only about like chemical compounds, but it's also about your heart and your feelings. So, and I like to always describe it as, for example, you have an apple or any kind of fruit that you're buying in a grocery store, grown on big farms. Even if it's organic fruit, it doesn't taste the same way as an apple that is grown by a farmer that puts his heart and soul into what he's doing. It always has that added value. And nobody can ever describe it, and that's also the style that we would like to produce. We would like to grow grapes this way.
Right.
We would like to really find a connection with the land, give the land what it needs in the natural way, and then the nature will give it back to 1,000 times.
It's interesting. I've heard, I visited Frequency Wines, and they play music to all their wine. And you mentioned that you play classical music to the wine.
Yes, we started doing it at Lunasen's Winery and Vineyard. We are playing music in our cellar when wines are aging, when wines are being produced. And I believe that it has a really impact on wines.
Do you have a theory of why that is, like how that works?
Well, there are many theories. You can just search them on Google, how they influence, for example, creating crystals in water, water that is just exposed to metal music, or water that is exposed to classical music. The crystals are being formed differently. But I don't know. Like I from Slovakia, we just started doing it just because we wanted to try something, and since we saw the result, we were amazed by the result. Like for example, in Slovakia, there is a big geothermal tomato producer that is playing music to their tomatoes, and they said like, "Oh, the tomatoes are bigger, juicier, they taste better."
It's amazing,
and nobody can prove why is that.
Yeah,
so that's why we decided we want to do the same here.
And you've noticed a difference in the taste,
I think, definitely,
for the same grapes.
The difference also, for example, in the fermentation kinetics. The fermentation is much more smoother. It always finishes very well. If there is some residual sugar in wine, the fermentation just finishes and the wine is absolutely excellent balanced. It's more elegant, I would describe.
Do you so at what point do you play the music? Is it while it's fermenting?
Well, we had a small estate vineyard in Summerland that plays music in certain blocks, but it's also very expensive to install speakers in the vineyard.
Right, and they have to be waterproof and everything else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you're driving a truck to hit a speaker, it's over.
Right.
So, but then we also play classical music in the cellar. So when we are crushing, and when we are aging wines in the barrel room, we're also exposed to classical music.
The crushing of the grapes, is it all mechanical now, or people still get barefoot and go in there?
We do. I like to use all the benefits of the, the
human touch.
Human touch, but also like, for example, modern technology, because that's helping us. It's not that we would like to do everything only with super modern equipment, but it helps us to produce also wines more naturally, and is much safer and less work a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, but still with modern technology, modern and effective equipment, you can still produce wine as natural as possible.
So you talked about vineyard in Summerland. That's what you're doing. Is that this wine?
No, Winemaker's Cut is the home of Winemaker's Cut wines, and is between Oliver and Osoyoos. It's we call the vineyard Deadman Lake Vineyard because it's right across the street from Deadman Lake.
Yeah.
On the western side of the highway.
Right.
And to me, it's a really unique vineyard. It's a vineyard that is actually located also between two lakes. Like I said, one is Deadman Lake, and the other one is Spotted Lake, which a lot of people in Okanagan knows that Spotted Lake is the lake that in the summer has like white spots on the surface.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's basically the confirmation of how rich is the soil in this area. It's very rich in many, many minerals, and this shows in our wines.
So those spots, is that minerals kind of amalgamating? And
especially sulfur elements. Here is a picture.
Oh, wow.
Like I believe that last year, 2018, you couldn't see the spots because there was always a lot of water. There was even flooding in Okanagan. But when we came to Okanagan, we could see those spots, and it was absolutely beautiful. So the richness of the soil that our wines are produced from is like just amazing.
Yeah,
we really sometimes have to fight with the salts and the minerals that are coming from the salt to really create a balanced wines, but they are very rich, very elegant, and very mineral.
Can we try?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
the wine traditional way, so we are using 100% natural cork because we believe that so we like to produce the wines as natural as possible. It also has to age as natural as possible. So I believe also in flavors that are developing by aging. So
what is the reason some people don't use cork anymore? I've seen like the rubber corks and the screw top.
Well, I like to drink also wine from screw cup because, like, first of all, it's price. The price points of screw cups can be cheaper. Also, they if you're producing wine a certain way, it preserves the freshness of the wine, which I also like. But our style is to produce wines that are that can create depth with aging.
Is there a big problem with corks? Like, I know a certain number of bottles will...
Yes, it's always a problem. But even the cork producers are getting better. They have a lot of them have now like laser sorters that can really detect the cork that contains already some kind of bacteria that can affect the taste and quality of the wine.
Okay.
But yeah, we decided to go with cork, and even there is a really small amount of customers that find a cork bottle and they're complaining. We replace the bottle immediately.
Right. Okay.
So the Sauvignon Blanc 2017.
Okay. And it's good to swirl it around a little bit.
Absolutely.
And smell?
So Sauvignon Blanc from Dead Man Lake Vineyard, the smell of this Sauvignon Blanc is, I would describe it as most popular Sauvignon Blancs are from Australia and from France. I would describe, or from California as well, but I would describe this one like something between France and California. It has also just a touch of the grassy notes, but not too much. It's beautiful tropical notes, green apple, peaches, and when you taste it, I know already. I don't have to try it now because I'm driving, but I know already that it has a beautiful. Its minerals are creating beautiful texture. It's like almost like oily Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes,
and this leads to a really, really long and fruity finish.
I love the green apple, and it's just I'm noticing a slight bit of peach, more predominant with the green apple, and that's my personal preference. I like a little more tart than sweet, so this is lovely.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's got a lot of texture, definitely.
Yes.
We're really happy and really grateful for this wine. So the second one we have is a Syrah 2016.
Okay.
Our first vintage of Syrah we produced was 2015. So this is our second vintage. With red wine, we usually focus on very short fermentation, but with temperature, like it should be like a really warm temperature to extract as much as possible from the skins and seeds.
Okay.
So this Syrah was fermenting for 10 days at really warm conditions, and then it was pressed and fermentation finished in stainless steel tanks. Also, malolactic fermentation was done in stainless steel tanks, and then the wine aged for 8 months in a variety of Slovakian, American, and French oak. And this is maybe something what I should have mentioned with the Sauvignon Blanc, that both of these wines have some Slovakian oak that we brought from Slovakia.
So you brought some grapes, some
oak.
Some oak barrels.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There is actually a supplier here in America that has Slovakian oak in their portfolio, but it's they call it European oak because Slovakian oak doesn't have that sound.
Right.
It has to be either European, French, or American.
Yeah.
But with my experience, I like to use Slovakian oak when making wine because it's a different type of oak. It's highlighting fruit much more than any other oak. It doesn't bring that heavy spice or heavy toast into wine.
Toast, yeah.
And it really brings more elegance into wine.
Right. Where did the corks come from?
Corks are from Portugal.
From
Portugal.
Portugal.
Yes.
Okay.
Spain, Portugal, kind of companies from Portugal.
Do they come in a big box?
They're coming in like plastic bags, but they are vacuum sealed. And these we're trying to focus on like really tall corks and high quality corks, so they're not really cheap.
Right. And where does the bottling take place?
We bottled this wine at Lunescence Winery, which we do have our own bottling lines over there.
Mm-hmm.
So we can focus on bottling the wine when it's ready.
Right.
And so we can 100% control our bottling process.
So you ship the barrels there, and then they put it into the bottles.
Yes. So this is the Syrah 2016.
Okay.
I think it's a beautiful, elegant Syrah. We are not focusing on picking grapes way too late with a lot of sugar, which transforms to high alcohol. I'll prefer to produce wine with a medium, low alcohol, because then we can discover those elegant and very specific notes from the vineyard, not overpowered by oak, not overpowered by alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, this Syrah was aging in Slovakian, American, and French oak. Slovakian oak was new, American and French was 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
also
beautiful.
not very long aging in barrel. I'll better have the wine in bottle sooner and then age it in a bottle.
Okay. And what kind of smells and tastes are we noticing with this Syrah?
Well, this Syrah has very typical Syrah notes, especially blueberries, blackberries.
Mm-hmm.
Then typical for Syrah is, I always remember when I got my first leather jacket from my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I opened the box and you can smell the leather. It's exactly like in a Syrah.
Mm-hmm.
Syrah likes to have also some really weird notes, sometimes like meat or bacon, which we find in this one a little bit, not too much. But for example, the new one, the 2017, that we have already bottled and we are just waiting to release it.
Right.
That's the one that has really wild game going on over there. It's a very earthy and a very specific Syrah compared to this one.
How long is a good amount of time to leave wine in the bottle before you drink it?
Ideally, I like to leave at least 6 months, but it also depends on the vineyard. It depends on the style of wine. So this Syrah is definitely, we found that the best time to release this Syrah was 6 months after bottling, and between 1 year and 5 years, it's really good to age or even to drink it.
Okay. And what happens past the 5-year mark? Is it more risky, or is it definitely going to change?
It might get risky, but it also starts creating those heavier aged tones that a lot of people, just average consumer, doesn't really prefer. But it's always also good to, especially red wine, it's always good to age it for a long time to find how the wine is developing with years, what kind of flavors are developed.
Right.
And especially when wine is made, I believe, as natural as possible, so without any additives, without any enzymes, stabilizers, then you can find really interesting notes in wine.
Right. Did you have any formal wine training, like the WSET courses, or you kind of learn from family and from experience?
In Slovakia, it's mostly from family, generations of experience in the village. We were producing wine, visiting tastings all around the world, or especially in Europe. Then also some self-learning. And here when I came to Canada, I wanted to have some formal training, so I have a certificate from enology from Washington State University.
Right.
And winemaking is, to me, like never-ending learning. So every year I'm learning, and I hope one day when I will be close to that, I will say now I think I understand wine.
Well, that's wonderful because it keeps you going. You never want to feel like you've learned everything, but it's a real joy to become an expert.
Absolutely.
And to get better every year. So.
There is no formula in making wine. You just, every year you just discover something else. You just go with it and enjoy it.
What would you say surprised you the most? What you've learned since 2012 coming here? What was the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise is the smoke. I never in my life thought that this could
be... You mean
with
the forest fires?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never thought that this can be a problem in the wine region anywhere in the world. It became a phenomenon of last years.
Yeah. How does that affect the wine?
It affects a little bit, especially red wine, because red wine is fermenting on skins, and those skins are actually exposed to the smoke, exposed to the ash falling from sky, for example. Now we have here wines from 2017, 2016 vintage, The 2016 Syrah was not affected by forest fire. 2017 just a little bit. So you maybe for the next year you'll be able to taste. There is maybe a little bit of smoke that is actually beneficial. If there is way too much smoke, it can really ruin the wine. I tasted wines that had smoke taint and it was really undrinkable wine. But to a certain point, I believe that Okanagan, everybody will have a little bit of smoke taint in these wines. And if it's not destroying the wine, it will just become a part of Okanagan wine.
Yeah,
it might be also
it's part of the history.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly.
And I guess if it's really severe, can block out the sun. Would that affect the growing?
It happened this year because we had really very dense smoke for a couple of weeks, and it was blocking the sun. And especially with red varietals, in 2018, I noticed that we had to let them hang a little longer. And there was not enough color phenolics developed on the berries. So, and that's the reason is I think that there was not enough sun. And the berries were not exposed to the sunshine that much.
Right. And this beautiful brochure, is this available online?
All information is there online on www.winemakerscut.ca.
Right. We'll put links to everything in the show notes. So it's really cool. I don't know if you're familiar with podcasts, but when you're in the app, like if someone's on the treadmill or if they're driving or something, they can just tap the link.
Oh, really?
They don't have to stop and write it down. They can tap the link right from the episode. I'll show you after. But
sometimes, when we are only farming and making wine, I feel like the world is moving somewhere else, and I just cannot keep up anymore.
Right? Yeah. Well, that's why I love audio so much, because I walk a lot and I drive a lot. So you can't really watch videos when you're driving, and you probably shouldn't if you're on a treadmill or if you're jogging. You don't really want to watch a video. So audio is really great.
Well, when I learned about podcasts when I saw helpers in the vineyard and at bottling, they were always listening to something. And but you shouldn't be listening because it's dangerous. This is machinery here.
Right,
Oh no, this is podcast. What is podcast? And then they explain me oh no, it's just talking. They're just as somebody else is talking, with me. Oh, that's interesting.
Right. So if they're listening to something now, you can make them listen to you on this
awesome.
on this show. They have to.
That's perfect. I hope it's my
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I introduced, we have 2 wines, but we are very fortunate that next year we can add 2 more wines to our portfolio. Really small amount of rosé, also from that Lake Vineyard, and a very small amount of Gruner Veltliner, which is a varietal that has origin in Austria, Slovakia, Middle Europe.
Is it white?
It's a white varietal, and we were growing it in our backyard in Slovakia. So it's something that I'm really looking forward. And even just the first moments of tasting the wines in a barrel, in a tank, almost created an emotional
When will that be ready for purchase?
We decided that we would like to release our wines on Mother's Day every year, just as a thank you to Mother Nature for giving us beautiful grapes that we can transform into wine.
Wonderful. So we'll look out for that.
Excellent.
And will it be in all the stores, or do we have to come to the vineyard?
No, we don't have a tasting room. We don't even basically own the vineyard. This is just home of our wines. So we are selling only online or in specialized liquor stores or restaurants.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll put the link to the store as well. That's great. Michael, who would you like to nominate to come on the show in the future?
There's a bakery in Penticton that was opened recently. And it's owned by a Slovak family, and it's downtown, right on the main street.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful bakery. And
what's the name of the bakery?
Petrasek Bakery.
Petrasek
Bakery.
So the show is called I Love Kelowna, and today we're going to record the 100th episode.
Oh, nice.
So I was thinking we're going to change the name now to I Love the Okanagan. And then when we get to episode 1000, it'll be I Love British Columbia. Or something, maybe 200, we'll say I Love British Columbia. Nice. And then once I get sponsors, I can travel. Okay. Instead of making you come all the way here, right? Excellent. So yeah, it's really great. It's a nice way to, I think we like to do business with people that we like, So this gives people an opportunity to hear from you and to get to know you a little bit, right? Perfect. Instead of just, tasting the wine, but they get to know you a little bit, and hopefully they'll come and visit, or they'll buy on me. Yeah,
excellent. That's perfect.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Michael, for your time today, and thank you for the wine. I'm going to enjoy this this evening with Kara.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me and my wife. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to I Love Kelowna. We love where we live, and how can you not? With all the provincial parks, pine forests, vineyards, orchards, mountains, on each show we have in-depth, intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, execs, thought leaders, and creatives, all that make up Kelowna. You can support the show so we can keep producing by going to paypal.me/Luke Menkes. And make sure to visit the official website at ilovekelowna.buzzsprout.com. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we hope you had some fun along the way. We'll be back soon. Until then, this is I Love Kelowna signing off.